President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
More problems domestically with their economy. Let's talk geopolitics for a second. Blockchain and Bitcoin. China is...
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Chaos Inc. episode 9. It is the 10th of October, 2022. We're kicking off today's show. It's been a while. I'm back. Apologies for the layoff. I've been super busy, but hopefully we'll get back in the swing of things and keep these shows going more frequently. What we're going to talk about today is basically what else is there to talk about. There's basically two things. There's the war in Russia and Ukraine and financial collapse. These are basically the only two things that we need to talk about. Let's recap the Ukrainian-Russian war right now. The last few days have seen major developments. We have seen over 100 missile strikes today by the Russians on Ukrainian soil. They have obviously switched strategies. They're now targeting civilian infrastructure, a lot of energy plants. As we speak, half the internet went down in Ukraine. The power's off. This has been a reversal from what the previous actions have been, where the Russians have been trying to spare infrastructure and just dismantle the military machine of the Ukraine. Obviously, I expect this would be a temporary thing. Putin has said this is a reprisal for the attack on the Crimean Bridge. So we saw the bridge over the Kerch Strait get hit this week recently with a truck bomb. It looks like it's already been repaired though, but that bridge is absolutely key to resupplying the Crimea with men and military equipment. Now let me step back in place. Let's take a look at the overall picture here of the Ukrainian war. We had phase one, which was where Russia went in everywhere. They went in from the north through Belarus. They went in through the east. They went in through the southeast up from Crimea. That was basically a win for Russia. I call that phase one. People at the time had said they couldn't believe Russia was invading. We kind of expected it. I knew that just from some of the signals, like when they were building, they were deploying field hospitals and pontoon bridges and things. It looked like that was not bluffing. Putin rarely bluffs. People just don't listen to what he has to say. So they went in. They took they surrounded Kiev. They surrounded Kharkov in the northeast, but they didn't go in. It was really to hold defensive forces in place in those positions of the Ukrainian military, and that worked. They surrounded Kiev with only 40,000 troops and just held position. Smart idea, because if they'd gone into those cities, it would have been a meat grinder, both in Kiev and Kharkov. I know people in Kiev who are sitting on their balcony with Molotov cocktails just waiting for Russian soldiers to come in. But what they did do is they grinded through the southeast, through Mariupol. We all saw that. They took Kherson, which is still today probably their biggest accomplishment, because it sits at the mouth of the Dnieper River. Okay, all the traffic leading south out into the coast comes through the Dnieper River, and Russia controls that with Kherson, and that's why you've seen Ukrainian just throw wave after wave of soldiers after Kherson. So that's phase one. Phase two, you had Russia grinding through the east of the country, through the Donbass. The goal to take Donbass and Lugansk and complete the takeovers of those provinces. That was an artillery war where the Ukrainians had nothing to fight back with. It was 10-to-1 shells of Russians just shelling Ukrainians in their positions. So we saw phase one. There was a lot of tank duels. They took out most of the Ukrainian armor. They took out the Ukrainian Air Force. Phase two was a lot of Ukrainians just sitting 2 guys deep, 5 guys deep, getting shelled. But if they could come across Russian armor, they try to javelin it. So Russia ate up most of that territory. Now we see a phase 2.5 where the Ukrainians actually came back. So keep in mind the Ukrainians have a 3 to 5 times numerical advantage in men in actual soldiers on the ground. That still makes a difference. They swept back areas of the Donbass and Lugansk. That was what I call phase 2.5. That was a win for the Ukrainians, although paying a very, very heavy price. Take notice in the mainstream media, you'll never hear anything about Ukrainian casualties. It's well over 100,000 men at this point. That's KIA plus severely wounded. That's probably a third to a one-fourth of their total fighting force and a lot of their best troops, which they used on this phase 2.5. Now we enter phase 3. Phase 3 is taking a dramatic turn. The Russians have done votes in the breakaway republics. All 4 republics have voted. They voted to join Russia. Okay, this is at the very end of the day. This is, what are we all fighting for? This is basically, we're risking nuclear war so that these people that identify as ethnic Russians and speak Russians want to join Russia. We're fighting to keep them as part of the Ukraine and keep them under the Kiev government that's been at war with them since 2014. So this is absolute madness how the world has got to this place as it is. So phase 3 now, we see the republics not being recognized as Russian by the rest of the world, but Russia and many countries recognizing them now as part of Russia. And Russia's going to treat them as Russian territory. So guess what? Nukes are on the table if you compromise Russian territory. Specifically tactical nukes. They have over 200 tactical nukes with different payloads that could take out a command and control center, could take out a city. You know, be surprised if you see a tactical nuke launched on a command center in Kiev if they know where Zelensky and his crew are at. Okay. Not off the table. Putin said he hasn't brought this up, but he said every option's on the table. We need to be extremely careful here. So as we go into phase 3, this was just escalated with the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline. Nord Stream pipeline was blown in 4 different locations, all at submersible depths, means divers could have got down there. There's underwater unmanned vehicles that could have hit it, that have been out, in the press for a long time. There's no doubt the Americans took it out. I mean, it's kind of obvious. The amount of methane, with as nuts as the world gets over climate change, the amount of methane that was just released into the atmosphere represents 5 million cars over 20 years. We just killed the climate with this natural gas pipeline blow up. And the reason why the good guys did it is because nobody talks about it anymore. It's off the press. I mean, they should be screaming and hollering Putin's an eco-terrorist and they're doing this and that, but they just want to they just want to skip it over. They don't want to talk about it. And anytime you see anybody on Twitter or anyone rationalizing how Putin blew up his own pipeline, guarantee you they're deep state actors, they are paid think tankers, they are paid academics. People will say anything to get money from the military-industrial complex. Keep that in mind. So anyone fighting on the American side, I do implore you, at least keep some form of impartial rationality so that you're believable. I mean, come on. I mean, it's too easy to see through these guys. It's just ridiculous. So that's phase 3. That's where we're at. We took out the Nord Stream pipeline. We most likely planned and controlled the bridge in Crimea, the explosion there. And now we've just seen Russia's reprisal with over 100 cruise missiles hitting Ukrainian infrastructure and locations. The same cruise missiles which they were supposedly ran out of in the first week of the war. So, one thing I've learned from this whole war is number one is getting an education in modern warfare tactics and how actually old warfare tactics they are. Some interesting new things like drone warfare, how important they are with reconnaissance, and these Iranian drones we've seen, which cost as low as a few $1,000s, and they're just absolutely lethal. You just launch their kamikaze drones. I mean, and air defense systems. Basically, modern air defense systems have taken away capabilities of modern fighter jets and bombers. You rarely see Ukraine doesn't have an air force, but you rarely see Russia, bombing, strafe bombing targets because of air defense systems. So these are all just some, things we learn in the war. But, Guy, you really would hope at this point the diplomats come out. The U.S. has not attempted diplomacy at all this entire process. We wanted this war. We want to kill Russians. We throw so much money at the military-industrial complex. You got a million national security morons risking the lives of everybody, throwing away Ukrainian lives. Senator Lindsey Graham said, we're going to fight to the last Ukrainian. These poor people are being used as pawns for some deep state sick joke. Okay, I'm Mr. America. I'm all for America, but you need to rebuild America. We get fooled into this every 10 years. We just got out of Afghanistan. We're there 20 years doing what? It's just complete incompetence. And the more money we print and the more money we hand over to Washington, D.C., the more these outrages continue. And in part of my country, I don't like being the evil guy. I don't like being the bad guy. History's going to write us as the evil empire lashing out at the end of the days. How about we build a goddamn factory in this country? So to wrap up the Russia-Ukraine war, we've got the Nord Stream 2 that was destroyed. Massive ecological disaster. This all plays in the hands of the old Ukrainian state Soviet pipeline that runs through Ukraine, that runs through Zelensky and runs through his handler, Kolomoisky, the same guy paying Hunter Biden. And all the Ukrainian gas oligarchs will continue to make their money. Quite strange, this whole war started just as the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was about to get put online and make the Ukrainian oligarchy obsolete, and as their cash flows would dwindle to zero. Funny how that works. It's also strange how the best in the world at setting up offshore companies and siphoning money are Ukrainians. Just go look at the Pandora Papers where Zelensky's in there. The offshore slush funds run out of Panama. This is all on the internet. You can Google it. A lot of this is pre-2020 when there was free media about Ukraine before the war. It's amazing how the narratives changed just like that. As soon as the war started, we became a deep state media. Everyone has freedom of speech until the war propaganda starts. So this all boils into, we got a long, long winter ahead of us, and most particularly difficult is going to be for Europe. This is part 2 of the pod here of this episode, which is financial crisis. We are at the foothills of a long financial crisis, in particularly Europe. So Europe has no business model anymore. Europe was German manufacturing and cheap Russian gas. Well, we've just separated those two things. UK's business model is gone, dead. It was basically a money laundering center run out of London. I won't go too far off on a tangent on this, but as the British Empire declined and went away completely in World War II, they made a conscious decision to try to keep control as much as possible, and they set up all the global offshore funds all over the world. The Jersey, Cayman Islands. Cayman Islands itself is the world's fourth largest financial center. Hong Kong, Singapore, where British colonies are or territories, you find offshore tax havens everywhere. And they were very successful at it for decades. The British were keeping, they denied their heritage, which is innovation in the industry. They got rid of all that, and it basically became money laundering, a financial center, which propped up a booming housing bubble, unchecked immigration, and deindustrialization, and everybody else on the dole. Okay, that's dead now. The system's dead. The financial money centers are declining with inflation. Inflation has destroyed this whole global carry trade where everyone gets money at 0% and goes in and becomes wealthy off of it. That kind of died on February 24th when the war started. History hasn't been written yet, but that's what it'll say. Speaking of Britain, you saw the British pound go down to as low as $1.03. Okay, this is, usually it's roughly around $1.40. It went to $1.03. It's going lower. The British pound will reach parity before the end of the year, and it's going to go much lower than the dollar because they have no business model anymore. Okay, it's got to get completely reconstructed. The euro's down to 97 cents. Okay, you just saw the Italian government fall into what they call right wing. Right wing now means you want to keep at least half your earnings. Okay, that's right wing. You're a goddamn right winger. You don't want 70% tax rates, you son of a bitch. So, yeah. So every European government's going to fall. You've seen bonds continue to decline in 2022 globally. The bond market has been in a 40-year bull run. This is the canary in the coal mine. Okay, $46 trillion has been wiped out in stocks and bonds this year. It's the worst bond market since 1926. You don't see that in the financial press because they want you to keep buying stocks. Okay, shovel them the money. The real economy is getting ready to tank. FedEx stock was down 35% in one day. Everybody's warning. Okay, these companies are shells. They can't make money with 10% inflation or 15% inflation, whatever it is. Or you look at Germany, producer price inflation up 45% year over year. Okay, they're not going to survive. Corporate Deutschland is going to get wiped out. Okay, without cheap energy, you can't make glass, you can't make chemicals, you can't make cars. Europe is gone, people. They are gone. And the reason why they're gone is because we want to force people in the Donbass to stay part of the Kiev government that's been attacking and at civil war with them since 2014. Which I should mention back to the voting issue. Does anyone really believe that they're going to vote to stay part of the Ukraine when they're dying to get out of it? Literally dying? 14,000 people were killed in eastern Ukraine before the February 24th. Okay, from the Civil War. That's just on the Russian ethnic side. Treasury yields continue at all-time highs. The world's so in debt, you're talking $350 trillion. There's no coming back from that. It's just going to be print and default. Okay, stealth default through printing drives inflation. Inflation goes up, they pull back a little, markets crash again until they're getting ready to default. You saw Britain, talking about Britain again. They went into the gilt market, the British government bond market, and had to save it. It was going to absolutely collapse. And the only buyer of last resort is going to be the British government. What are they going to buy the British bonds with? Printed money. Okay, Japan's been doing this for 5 to 10 years, but at least they have a productive economy behind them. They have terrible demographics, Japan, and they just lost the Sakhalin oil project. Their oil's going up as well, and their natural gas. But at least they have corporate Japan, which is built off technology and production. It's not built off a money center. Okay, so my friends in the UK, we have, and I consider my ancestral roots are from the UK, and I consider myself still linked there, and my country was a former British colony. But they have got to wake up and get a new plan, basically. They have a new government. Liz Truss's government. We'll see how that works. I think they're in an impossible position, to be honest. So at this point. So back to, the bailouts. The Bank of England unleashed $65 billion bailout, as I mentioned, just to save the bond market. This is all about breaking the pound. Some of us will remember 1992, George Soros, how he broke the pound by betting UK had to leave the ERM, the exchange rate mechanism, to balance European currencies. He had insider info and he made $1 billion. And that was a real money back then in 1992. Now it's just absurd. We bail out with trillions of dollars. And as all this money continues to flush over our economies, we all have to get ready to live through inflation. And maybe I'll do a few episodes on that, on how we all prepare ourselves to live through inflation, because it's not easy, and it's going to be, well, I guess a lot of us are already used to it. We live through pretty mild hyperinflation already, stealth inflation. They say 2%, but we all know it's been double digits. But now we're in the 30-40% ranges. So it's a whole new ballgame out there with regards to inflation. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this episode up. I will leave a few more things to keep in mind. Nuclear fuel. 50% of our nuclear fuel comes from Russia and Kazakhstan. That's here in the United States. That's another card yet to be played by Putin. We have, outside of whole Russia, Ukraine, and European and American economies imploding. You have Lebanese banks. You have people. This is more than 10 Lebanese banks now that have been robbed at gunpoint. People there to take out their own savings. That's it. The banks in Lebanon are all holding customer deposits, just waiting for them to inflate away to nothing. Completely outrageous. The BRICS have voted to abstain from condemning the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This is keep an eye out for this. The BRICS are moving against the developed world. The SCO, the Shanghai Cooperative Organization, led by Shanghai. This is like a Shanghai-based NATO. Not only includes Russia, but you have India wanting to become a partner and Turkey wanting to become a partner, and Hungary as what they call like a kind of a inspector partner, which is just watching things and attending the meetings. This is absolutely, we could get, this could be the last days. As Europe heads into this winter, we've seen, do they have the energy reserves actually prepared? I fear they don't. If you look at, there was a video with the president of Moldova that leaked this week, and these Russian prankster DJ guys pretend to be Zelensky, and they're on the video call with the president of Moldova, and she basically admits on the video that, yeah, we really need energy from Ukraine because we have no other way to get it. We have nothing for this coming winter. And guess what? Ukraine is just now stopping exports because all their electricity just got taken out in the missile strikes. We could see people going to shopping centers and schools just to get heat in Europe this winter. Okay, that's just to survive. That's not talking about the economies, which are gone. You can't build Volkswagens without electricity. Wood pellets are now going for $600 a ton. Okay, we're chopping down trees here to send to Europe. This is insanity. Okay, the whole climate thing. My goodness, Germany spent $1.4 trillion on wind power. Okay, which doesn't work. Okay, and for a country the size of Germany, 1.4 trillion is a huge amount of money for anybody, and they don't work. And now they're burning wood chips and coal. These are the climate guys that complain to the United States that even though the United States carbon emissions have dropped 40% over a decade. Okay. So to end this episode, we're just going to say at this point, can the United States avoid going full Roman? Meaning, are we going to put boots on the ground in the Ukraine? That would be kind of the end of things. I think we could be handily embarrassed because we'll go from partial mobilization in Russia to full mobilization. The Chinese are going to stay out of this, okay? They're smart. They're going to continue to. China's opened 278 oil refineries since 1977. U.S. has opened 0. What do you think all those Chinese refiners are doing now? They're grabbing that Russian oil at 40 cents on the dollar, refining it and exporting it. Okay, they're making money. They're going to let their enemies, the old Chinese strategy was let the barbarians fight each other on our borders. Okay, and let them kill each other. That's what they'll do. Until Russia's northern border becomes unstable. If we ever do get an unstable Russia like we want, what like the U.S. deep state wants, China won't stand for it. They may come in. If China comes in, it's over. They could wipe through Europe. They could take out the U.S. Pacific Fleet if got anywhere near Taiwan. We'll be in a whole new world. The boats at the port of Long Beach will stop showing up. U.S. will be Mad Max, okay, within a month. The deep state policy guys that are driving us to the edge of the cliff here, they've never had real jobs. They've never worked in a factory. They've never imported or exported anything. They grow up in think tanks. They grow up in universities, and now they're ending it all, okay? So contact your politician because there may not be tomorrow, okay? So this is signing off. Comments, questions, subscribe, comment on the video, and look forward to hearing your feedback. Have a good one.